Hello, everyone. Welcome to Language Tech Talk. I'm Summer, your host and co-founder of Cathoven AI. We are your AI grading buddy for English writing and speaking. Today, I'm super excited because I've got Dr. Emilia Gracia from Arizona State University joining us. With 17 years deep in the trenches of language teaching as tech, Emilia isn't just another educator. She is someone who gets it, pushes boundaries, and isn't afraid to challenge how things have always been done. Let's welcome Emilia.
Hi, Summer. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Could you tell us briefly about your background and as an educator?
Yes, so I've actually been in the field of language teaching since 2009, and I've taught in several different countries, and I currently teach in an intensive English program at a U.S. university, Arizona State. I have a PhD in linguistics and applied linguistics, and my area of research is teaching English language pragmatics with virtual reality and AI. So as of now, I'm the head of a technology lab called Fluent Futures Lab in a department called Global Launch, my department. And so that's a little about me.
That's impressive, especially your work at the intersection of pragmatics, VR, and AI. I'm curious, when introducing new tools in the lab, what kind of resistance or excitement do you typically see from students? I guess not every student will say, "Oh, I love it. I want to try it." Will they?
That's absolutely true, yes. So some students, there's something called the novelty effect, which is when students like something or they're interested in it just because it's new. And it doesn't matter what that tool is. So we always have to be aware of that. We're always going to have, when we're introducing tools, we're always going to have interest just because the tool is new. But the novelty effect, like other effects, wears off. So we also have to be aware of the fact that even if students do like a technology, if they get too used to it, it's not new anymore, and therefore no more novelty effect. So that's one thing. We have to make sure that we're just really using the technology mindfully, that we're actually using it to do something that we can't do normally, or it's filling a gap, or addressing an issue that's very hard to address. Then there's also the scenario of students not wanting to use the technology either because it's too much work for them. Some students feel uncomfortable using something they've never used before, but I would say those are rare cases. Like when I was doing my virtual reality research for my dissertation, I had students, there was one student in the whole group who did not want to wear the headset. He didn't like it. Then there was another student who thought it was uncomfortable because it was messing up her hair. So,
really?
So sometimes, we do get those instances. We have to be aware of the hardware, right, that we're using and the software, and different students will perceive these things differently. And then there's also the faculty side. Getting faculty to require students to use certain technologies and tools can also be challenging, especially if faculty don't see the benefit in the technology, or they themselves are not interested in using new technology, or they just assume that whatever it is we're showing them is a new tool for cheating.
Speaking of which, you said that some of the teachers may say that they don't want to try it. Is it like they are afraid that they may be replaced?
I think there's a small fear of that, but I don't think that's the overarching fear. I think mostly teachers who don't want to try new technology, it is just because they're too overwhelmed with the work they're doing, or they feel like they're already putting in too much effort, and they see that learning a new technology is just learning one more thing they have to do, one more thing they have to learn on top of everything else that they're already being asked to do.
Exactly. Yeah, I do heard that some teachers feel like they feel it's a burden now to try all of the AI tech, especially if the technology, the features are not good enough. They feel like they waste time on doing that. What is the next question? Just checking. From your intensive experience in IEP, what do you see as the biggest challenge language teachers face today?
I actually think motivating and engaging students nowadays, right? Because students have the internet at their fingertips. Everybody has a smartphone. Everybody's on their devices all the time. I think it can be very challenging to get students to pay attention to what's going on in class or to want to engage with other students. I also think that, post-pandemic, right, post-COVID, I think a lot of students or people became very used to not interacting socially so much. And so I think that especially students that are incoming freshmen right now, I think that they lived that experience as younger people, and so I think that there is a higher tendency to not want to be as social as students of previous generations or years. So I think that teachers are definitely challenged with showing students things they haven't seen or getting them to be interested in what it is we're teaching and what it is they should learn.
Yeah.
Instant gratification of the online world is our competitor, right? And so we need to find ways to foster human connection, ways that are meaningful, and ways that we can actually just bring awareness to students about their own learning.
And you're right. It's wild how engagement today is so closely tied to personalization, especially as you said that students are used to TikTok level content tailored to them like every second. And I've seen research showing that even actually small levels of choice in assignments, like picking a topic or format, can increase the motivation by 30%. So I guess that is something in your university you have to, as a professor, have to carefully picking that activities to increase the engagement.
Yes.
Have you ever experimented with any kind of personalization at scale in your programs?
No, currently we have not, but it is definitely something I am looking into.
Nice. Do you think Cathoven will be the one?
I hope so.
You've worked intensively with educational technology like virtual reality and digital platform. Could you share some key insights or success stories about how these technologies truly enhance the classroom outcomes?
Yes. So I will just actually go right to talking about my dissertation work. The thing is, in computer assisted language learning, our goal is not to just use a bunch of tools, but rather to see what affordances the tools have and then see how we can maximize those affordances for the benefit of the learner. So, for example, I was looking at things that can't very easily be taught in the classroom and things that students actually need but don't get typically in the classroom, not because the teacher is not good or whatever, but simply because there are certain parts of language learning that are very difficult to develop in the classroom. One of those is pragmatics and conversational skills. So yes, students typically in our classrooms get to have conversations with each other. They do a lot of that, and the teachers really make great use of class time for communication. It's a very big thing that we do. However, what they don't get is they don't get unlimited practice, and they don't get to practice with someone that knows a lot more than they do, right? So in a classroom, they're practicing conversations with students who are probably making the same mistakes as they are.
Yeah.
And also, they're not getting feedback on how to improve what they said. So what the VR with AI component did, especially with my dissertation, is I just found that the students who were doing the same conversational practice activities in the VR environment as the students who were doing it in the classroom just with other students. The students in the VR environment, the experimental group, they had higher learning outcomes on almost every topic. And the reason for that was because they got much more practice and feedback. And it was the technology that was able to give them that. Whereas in a traditional classroom, yes, it's great. Students are communicating, they're talking to each other, they're practicing. But the level of practice, and especially for individuals, right, is enhanced. And so when you have these technologies, you're actually giving individual students a chance to reach their full potential. Whereas when you're in a classroom, there's a lot of power dynamics going on, right? Like you have maybe a student who knows a little more than the other students, so they're not getting the same benefit, but they're also maybe dominating the class, so maybe they're getting more practice, and other people are being quiet, because this person is dominating. And so actually in the VR environment, because it is individual, each student's in a headset, they're each in their own world, they actually get a personal conversation tutor, and they're in an environment where they can feel free to make mistakes. The bots don't get tired of the students. The students can repeat themselves as many times as they need to, right? These things can't really happen realistically with a person-to-person interaction, right? Unless you hire a private tutor and you pay them well, and that person is getting paid for their patience, but again, the affordances of these tools stretch far beyond what we can do in a traditional classroom space, and so that is what I emphasize.
Nice. I'm definitely that one of that kind of dominant student, which will takes away most of my peers' time. You mentioned a very interesting point is that the AI got the patience and then give you enough time to give you the feedback. So you mean that VR environment is like a real AI tutor?
Yes. So essentially, the VR environment and the one that I used in my dissertation research showed a real person that was actually recorded, and they have lots of different answers. And so whatever the student says, it'll trigger different answers. And so it's like they're having a conversation in real time with a person. But then it'll show up on the screen and it'll say, hey, you should say this instead, right?
Wow.
Or, here's a recommendation. And it guides the student through the conversation, so the student can actually learn how to have the conversation. And then that actually gives the student confidence to go out and have that type of conversation about that topic in real life. And they have higher accuracy when they do it. Because when you've practiced something and you know what steps you can anticipate, right? You can speak with more confidence in real life. So my whole idea with this was to give students a safe space to practice, so that they could actually be better communicators in person-to-person interactions. So I emphasize the fact that we're not using VR and AI to replace human interaction. We're actually using it to better prepare students for it, so that they will go out and speak more. And especially in our context, because students are coming from other countries, they're here in the US, a lot of them do want to interact with local students, but are too shy and too self-conscious about their language and conversational abilities to do so. So my research showed that having a practice environment like this does give our students the opportunity to develop confidence.
Agree. Better prepare the students for the real world. Now it comes to Cathoven. When you first encountered Cathoven, what specifically caught your attention?
Well, when I encountered Cathoven, which was at the GSB Summit when I met you, Summer, I was very impressed about how it is CEFR-aligned. So, I mean, there are so many, AI tools out there that can, yes, help students with writing. But when I saw that there was this tool that actually gives CEFR-aligned leveled feedback for grammar, vocabulary, and it tells students, it gives students suggestions. It doesn't do things for them, but it actually gives them feedback that our teachers should be giving, right? But our teachers may not have time or the cognitive space to actually say, hey, use this word instead of this word because this is a, CEFR B2 word and you're using a B1 word, right? So that was really impressive. I liked that so much, and I thought, wow, what a great thing. Students can also get suggestions about how to connect for coherence and cohesion, because that's also very much a struggle, depending on the first language that the student comes from. These concepts of flow in the English language, they don't transfer right to other languages, and so I mean, students will always need help with that. And so I think that it echoes the things that we're teaching, and it supports that. And so that's what made Cathoven really unique and caught my attention.
Oh, thank you. That really means a lot, that coming from you. So when we built the writing and speaking tools, the goal wasn't to impress other edtech people or students or teachers. We only got one simple rule, is that will student actually will use it more than once. Until now, we still use that North Star to check the data. Teachers from intensive English program often face tight schedule and limited resources. How can teachers quickly and effectively evaluate new technology or AI tools to determine if they are worth implementing?
Well, my very first recommendation for that is the teacher should actually try and use that tool for something they need and they want to do. Like, for example, in order for a teacher to value a tool, teacher actually has to see its value for themselves. So if I open up ChatGPT, for example, and I say, okay, here's this reading, and I upload a reading, and then I say, all right, can you make a 10-question test for me? And then it does it. And I see that it does a really good job, and I say, hey, this is pretty cool. This can save me a lot of time. Then I think that gets teachers thinking, and how can I show my students to use this? Or maybe I give them an activity where they have to go on ChatGPT and do these number of things, and then they have to compare their answers. I think that that is one of the keys, right? Is actually just getting teachers to use it themselves. Because if you haven't used it yourself for something that you need, it's very hard to envision how you could, use it with your students. But I do think that they are concerned about, and rightfully so, about students using AI to do writing assignments, and just, copying and pasting essays. And students getting too good at that we can't tell if they have cheated or not, right? But see, the answer to this is to actually change the types of assignments we're doing and to actually show students how to use AI technologies to their benefit in their learning, instead of just as a cheating tool. Hey, ChatGPT, do this for me. Instead of that, it's like, ask ChatGPT for feedback, right? Or, we show them how to use it responsibly. And then we can also show them lessons and how AI tools can be wrong because they do hallucinate. Right? So, for example, if you go to ChatGPT and you ask it to give you research articles about this topic, it sometimes, a lot of times, will actually make up or invent authors that don't exist, and titles of articles that may exist but with a different author, or may have nothing to do with what you're researching. And so when they're writing an essay, that can actually happen. And I think it's important to show students that, because then you bring awareness to the limitations of the tool, right? And I'm just talking about ChatGPT. I mean, there are others, but I think, we need to show students how to use the tool. And if we personalize the assignment, and we make it really about the student, then I certainly think that students won't want to cheat. And they actually might see value in doing the assignment. And if they can use an AI tool to help them with the difficult parts of the assignment, I think that they can produce really great work. We just have to show them how, right? But if teachers themselves don't know how to use the tool, we can't, right? We can't even go there. So that just ties back to the last question, right? It's really important for teachers to use these tools themselves.
Exactly. That is another question that people are discussing. So to summarize what you said, you mean how to prevent student cheating is to show them how to use it, and also show the limitation of using ChatGPT, so that they have to voluntarily not using it, like entirely.
Yeah.
Nice. As a researcher and educator, what excites you most about the possibility AI and technology bring to the language education?
Well, I'm really excited about how AI can actually become a collaborative partner for individual students. You know, studying can be such a lonely road. Sit by yourself at the library, right? Read, memorize. I think it's always nice, and I think we always learn more as humans when we actually are part of a study group. Not everyone's lucky enough to get a study group or a study group of friends who actually are there together to talk about the topic, right? Sometimes study groups come together and people just end up socializing, which is fine, but it also doesn't serve the purpose. But, you know, I'm reflecting, as I'm saying this, I reflect on the idea that I get really great ideas when I sit and talk to my colleagues about things that I'm thinking of, research-wise or teaching-wise. And students need that for their studies. They actually need to learn through interaction, and they need to learn through discussion. And of course, a human partner is not always available. This is just reality, right? Because of the way that we live in the modern world today. So I think envisioning AI tools as collaborative partner for a student in their learning journey, and also for educators in their journeys as teachers, to have an AI buddy to talk to and to help you think of ideas and to organize things for you, right? It's like having a friend, a colleague, and an assistant. I think if everybody gets help, everybody can do really well. And I think that we can all do better when we get help. Yeah. And so I actually think that AI can help educators and students reach their full potential. And I also think that very daunting administrative tasks that we do in education, or that administrators do, I think those can be outsourced with AI tools to make their load lighter. So
that really resonates. I used to teach too. I remember that when students really hit the wall, like they want to write, or they want to speak something, and then I couldn't just tell them that, oh, just think. Give me more ideas. Actually, it does not work. It just those ideas just weren't coming. So having an AI partner that never loses patience, as you said, that give them confidence and nudges them forward instead of judging them. So I guess that is very helpful. So for educators and programs directors who might feel hesitant about adopting AI tools, what advice and encouragement would you offer?
Oh, yeah. So I think instead of focusing on what could go badly, see the opportunity that exists with using AI tools for classroom activities, right? See the opportunity that exists for assignments, instruction, and, you know, so many other things. I think educators and administrators need to use AI themselves for the work that they do. And so they can see its benefits and challenges. And then once they understand what the benefits and challenges are, then they can start to use it in the classroom and more widely.
Exactly. Yeah. Fear-based decision making is the fastest way to fall behind. They need to try it. They need to just use it. So yes, that's all for today's question. Thank you, Emilia.